You are listening to Revealing Real Estate Podcast, where we dive into getting over your fear of taking risk in real estate and making money while you sleep. I'm Nick Oppedisano, your host and real estate guru with over 20 years of experience. It's time to get real. Welcome to the show today, Revealing Real Estate. And I'm telling you, if you're a real estate agent in our industry right now, the guest that I have, Mr. Dan Plowman, who continues a remarkable 30-plus journey in the real estate industry, evolving from a rookie of the year to becoming one of the largest producers in North America. Throughout his career, he is constantly ranked at the top 100 of Canada's largest real estate teams in the Toronto Real Estate Board and has built one of the highest-ranked teams in Canada from annual production. Operating his independently owned brokerage, Dan has sold well over $1 billion in real estate, maintaining millions in GCI annually. Known for selling an average of one home a day for over a decade, Dan attributes his success to up-to-date, proven systems tailored to the dynamic real estate industry. Despite his impressive sales record, his priority is family time, spending evenings and weekends at home. Beyond his sales achievement, Dan is passionate about making marketing sales and helping others reaching unprecedented levels in real estate, and currently runs a successful coach which is called the Dan Plowman Team Coaching Systems. Dan, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Buddy, you are a legend. I got to say that. I'm going to start off by starting this podcast by saying, as a young real estate agent back 2004, I was a guy who just got his real estate license, and I came to one of your seminars once. And I don't know if you know this story. I never told you about it, but it's a true story. And I came to one of your seminars, and I'm like, wow, this is the guy I want to role model and become, because it was awesome. The insight that you shared and what you taught me early on within my business really started me, with ground running with my hard hat on and doing the things I needed to do within the business itself.
That's very kind.
So Dan, I just want to say this is I'm really excited to have you on. I just want people to understand about who you are as a person, your story. How did you become a real estate agent, and then to develop your team to how successful it is now to becoming a real estate coach?
I became a real estate agent because I wanted to work with people. I found that out very early on. I consider myself fortunate at the time, 25 years old, being able to realize, where you should be working. And I think when what you want to do aligns with your unique ability, happiness just happens naturally, if that makes sense. Totally. And then, the 60, 70-hour work weeks don't feel that way. When you're, doing what you love, it's a lot easier to do that, right? It doesn't feel like work. Those cliches are actually true. So I consider myself at 25 to be very fortunate to have found exactly what I wanted to do, knowing that, again, it aligned with my unique ability. Because prior to that, I was in the HVAC industry. I had developed and built a business from a very young age. My family came from HVAC, so I naturally just evolved within. And then by 21, 22 years old, I had 20 people working for my HVAC company, new construction as well as retrofit. And we were doing a lot of HVAC, a multitude of things. And by the age of 25, I realized, as much as I liked that industry, I loved the part about going out in the evenings and doing the sales. So I happened to have bought a property once very early on that I could barely afford at 25. Had 3 kids at a very young age and was busy. I was busy, But I remember buying this property thinking, I never even met that real estate agent, because back then they would fax the deal to your local Staples or whatever, and you'd run down and sign the stuff and fax it back and then page him and he'd phone you back. And that's how it was. But
good old days.
I never met the guy. I think it was a $13,000 piece of vacant land I hoped to maybe build on one day. And the commission, he told me, I said, so how do I pay you now? Because I remember buying anything. And I had to ask him, so how do I pay you? How do you get paid? Because he felt like he helped me, right?
Yeah.
And, I didn't know, right? And he said, well, I get paid from the seller. I said, do you mind if I ask how much you make? Because I always ask questions. And
yeah, you're curious.
I get 10% on vacant land. I said, $1,300 doing the math, $1,300. I spoke to this guy maybe 20 minutes totally, made $1,300. Now, keep in mind, I'm going back to like 87, 88, whatever it was. And I'm like, that's a lot of money, man. I worked hard to make $1,300 in a week, if I did. And I had a business that was very successful. Anyway, long story short, I remember saying to people, my parents and everybody else, for probably 6 months, how this was crazy. This guy made so much money. And they said, why don't you just get your real estate license then? Bing, this little light went off, you know what I mean? And then I started to notice every realtor. Isn't it funny how that works? Right?
Yeah, it does.
The brain, the part of the brain.
Yeah.
So I started to notice they had the nicest jewelry, the nicest cars. I'm like, this is for me for sure. But I loved the fact that they were with people, working with people all the time. So, little did I know most realtors couldn't afford their jewelry or their cars, but that's another story. I started November of 89, and I remember when I started in real estate, sold my business, and I had some revenue from that, which allowed me to get through about probably 12 months if I didn't do well. And that's not much when you've got 3 kids. So I had to make it, and I had to go, and I did. I moved to Durham region because we were able to buy a house out here. I moved to Durham region because, well, it was more affordable for us at the time, coming from, from the Vaughan, Thornhill area. And that's where I planted myself and started my real estate business, not knowing the streets, not having a client base. And I hustled, man. I started with my 70-hour work weeks. Now, I will say, having come from the habits of working hard, 60, 70-hour work weeks, I do believe that paid well with regards to habits early on.
And which is critical. And having good habits and making that effort out there is really the key to true success, I believe.
I think in all businesses.
And I think in all businesses, for sure. Listen, you're definitely, like I said, I mentioned that early on in the show, you're definitely a legend to myself and definitely a pioneer on the team side of things. I learned and evolved about teams actually because of you when I started. I didn't start right away with a team. As you know, I evolved. I started as myself, and then my wife came on board and then found an assistant. And then I needed a buyer agent from it, and I started to evolve from there because of my habits that I've implemented within my business and the systems that I've also put into my systems, into my business as well. But I also had a mentor starting early on within the business itself. And I do believe for young real estate agents that are listening to this show right now, my advice to them is, of course, getting a mentor. Did you have a mentor when you started out within the business?
Absolutely. I remember very early on, attaching myself to anyone that would listen to my questions. And there were top producing realtors in my office that were, some of them making big money. And I remember taking them to lunch. I remember asking questions. I think that at times I was seen as quite annoying, to be very honest, because I would ask so many questions. But hey, that's how you learn.
But that's what made you a good getting a lot of listings. You got to ask a lot of questions when you're going to a listing presentation, right? And that's what probably created a lot of your success.
Yeah. So one of my early mentors, Tony Robbins, I did some of his courses, worked with him, had some great connections with him. I've been very fortunate to be very close with him at times and had great conversations with him. So I'm grateful to him, and I'm grateful for the example he set. And boy, has he grown in his mentorship, I will say, to all
smart individual for sure.
Great guy. And then, of course, I've had many, many coaches over the years that I've taken pieces of that I know and find, having still working in the trenches, actually very active with my team and very involved with files selling homes, that there are things that work and don't work today. And I think that's critical if you're going to hook up with any coaching or training company. Be with someone or some company that is still in tune with what's going on. But I don't want to avoid your question, because I go back to a little story early on in my career when one of the top producer in our office and in Durham region, I remember selling a home with her one evening. And back then you presented all offers face to face, and the seller was sitting there. I'm bringing the buyer's offer, and I sit down and present the offer, and we did a good enough job that we sold the home. And the next day I remember going into her office and sitting or standing and saying, so thank you, Diana, how did it go? And is there anything I could have improved on? And this woman didn't say much, but when she spoke, you listened. And she said, well, now that you've asked, Dan, sit down. So I had a seat. I felt like I was in trouble. Turns out I kind of was, but she made a valid point that I thought of and thought on, and it helped me immediately. She said, Dan, I've never in my life witnessed someone present an offer, sell a house to the client and us, do such a great job presenting, and then take it away. And then you sold that home about 3 times last night, Dan. Because I wouldn't stop talking. Yeah. She said, there's a lot of power in speaking and being quiet and then listening. And once you learn that, you're going to go to another level. And that was one of my first strong lessons that I learned. Took me a while to implement, but powerful. And I remember when she said, I remember watching her after that, because we did a few offers over the years after that. And boy, she lived by that. That's powerful.
Yeah.
It's powerful.
That is very powerful. Now you have a team of real estate agents right now in the Durham region. How many members on your team right now?
Well, if you count field rep partners as well as inside sales, as well as employees and all staff, oh my gosh, Nick, we've got to be 25.
25 in total.
23, 25.
Yeah, that's pretty good. And you guys are right now about 400 deals a year, I would say, on average.
I would say closer to 350 last year.
350 last year.
It was a tough year.
Yeah, markets were down. Numbers are down for everybody, including on our team too as well. It's part of the process.
We did well.
Good markets, bad markets.
Don't get me wrong. We did well, and we're grateful.
Yes, 100%. And we are as well over here on the team too as well, because a lot of times, and we're going to get into this, Dan. But before I get into that question, I want to ask you, what made you transition right now? So are you transacting in real estate yourself right now, or are you just really specifically focused in on coaching?
No, I don't. I work with the team, and I am involved in the office with regards to the marketing side. I am very closely involved with my marketing team to ensure that our branding, as well as our opportunities that roll in, that come our way, are in abundance for my field rep partners. My job as a team leader is to ensure that people can and do live in abundance. And by that I mean opportunities that come their way. Because of the training, then at a higher level, we're able to convert at a higher level. Because, Nick, you've always heard me say this, deals are a natural byproduct of doing the right things.
Correct.
But I think the right things start in some of those areas, marketing, training, organization, skill development. I'm also involved with role play with clients or with my field rep partners now. I'm very deeply involved.
Scripting is very important for you guys.
But it is. And I started last September just passed. I started meeting with my field rep partners. We record every call that comes inbound now on Colorado. We record everything. So when a client calls in, whether it's an ad call or whether it's just an inquiry or whether it's someone they saw a bus shelter or whatever, and they just maybe want an appraisal or an estimate on their home, we record those calls. And then one of my jobs, is to take those recordings and work with my field rep partners to kind of like just review it. And it's like this. Tiger Woods has one of the best swings, if not the best golf swing in the world, but he still does swing analysis. He still watches himself, right? Mm-hmm. And he does this regularly. Why? Mm-hmm. Well, because he knows he can still improve. I think we're really good at what we do in our conversion and our language that we use, but we can always be better. So in the spirit of betterment, in the spirit of world class, we constantly are honing our skills. And that's just one more thing. And it's funny, because I was going to train somebody to do that job, and I thought, I don't think I can.
Yeah, it's
so in depth, but I actually enjoy it. So for the 2 or 3 hours a week I spend one-on-one with my partners, they appreciate it because it's all in the spirit of betterment, and it allows me to stay in tune even more closely with what's going on. But to answer your question, no, I do not actively sell anymore. I mean, short of my mother maybe calling me to come list her home a couple a year. But no, that's for my team. It's all about them, right?
It's all about them right
Absolutely.
now. So you do a lot more one-on-one coaching with instead of big group forums with your team members?
So I take care of them one-on-one, yes.
One-on-one.
So I'll meet with them because of even just the recordings. I'll meet with them weekly because there's that much coming in, right?
Right, of course.
So we always have that open door policy. I'm in the office with regards to the real estate team 2 to 3 days a week, 2.5 to 3 days a week, and then the other 2 days a week to 3 days a week, very much committed to the coaching side.
So let's get two separate companies. So let's get to two separate companies for sure. So what made you evolve to becoming a real estate coach? What made you want to do it? And are you enjoying it?
I really do enjoy it. And Nick, it's been a long haul because you referenced coming to one of the early seminars. That's 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. And, I hear you talk and I realize, wow, I'm getting up there in numbers. But I started young. Having said that, I knew. And
you don't look much older than I do, though. I tell you that much.
You're very kind. I'm well rested. Just got back from vacation. So give it a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But all joking aside, I believe the coaching was necessary. I can remember as our team took off many, many years ago, and I was early because I remember one of the tags we used with Dan
Plowman. I call you a pioneer, buddy.
Right. Yeah. One of the tags we used was the future of real estate. Yeah. And I see some others have stole that now, and that's okay. That means they're watching me. But the future of real estate's, I think, a cool tag in that if you're constantly, cutting edge, you should be ahead of what's coming next. And that's ultimately what we're looking for, not just as realtors, but as someone who was developing a team at the time. And I remember brokers coming up to me after one of the first things I said, or one of the first speeches I had, 150 people in Markham, and that might have been the one you were at, I don't know, or in Vaughan. And
it was in Vaughan.
And he said, oh, teams are never going to go anywhere. It's all a fad. It's not going to work. People can't get along.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, that's interesting. I don't agree. And if you look now on the board for which numbers, and we track and see everything, right, Nick? We know.
Yeah,
but if you look at where deals come from now, over 80% of the deals done are being done by teams some form or another. Mm-hmm. That's powerful. Right? Powerful,
very powerful. Yeah, so, and we're going to get into that.
And then even if you dissect that even further, and I know you're going to get into it, I'll just touch on this, the amount of deals that are trending in that direction for the mega teams is even higher.
Correct.
So, but anyway,
it goes to show you that it's still, there's still a bright future towards teams as well.
So I got into the coaching side of things just with the intention of helping some people build and develop their teams, because there was a questionable need. And by questionable, I mean people were asking me, not questionable in that, is this really needed? It was needed, but there was nobody filling the void. And so I thought, okay, well, I'll take on a few clients and we'll kind of help them develop their team, because really it was just a matter of mirroring exactly what I was doing at the time, turnkey, because my team had gained immense traction fast. So, and that's ultimately what we do now. We give you turnkey what makes my team successful. So don't hold anything back. We give you a lot of stuff, and you're able to gain traction quickly. Because if you do exactly what I do, you're going to sell a lot of homes. That's all there is to it. I don't teach, coach, or train anyone in the Durham region, because it would kind of be weird to train my competition. But that's not the majority of my target market anyway with the coaching and training company. So I think I answered your question now.
Yeah. So, being a team leader, as myself, we look at the industry in a whole and wonder why is it that more and more agents that get into our industry are doing less and less business. I did a podcast, and how this evolved to have you come on to this show is because when I ran a quick 60-second reel talking about the stats of real estate agents within the Toronto real estate market. And if we look at the numbers in 2023 and 72,000 members of the Toronto Real Estate Board, and where we see 30,000 have made 0 deals, 32,000 on top of that have made only 1 to 4 deals per year. And then I think it trickles down to 6,000 have made 6 to 10 deals per year. And those numbers keep staggering down and down. And I said to myself, I love watching people succeed. And as a team leader, I have nothing, my passion now is watching young, inspiring realtors that want to become successful like yourself or myself within the industry as well, to grow their business and teach them how to grow their business. And that's where my true passions come from. And the reason I wanted to have you on is I'm like, well, I wanted to get Dan on because you are such a wonderful success story and your coaching is phenomenal. And I just want to help young, inspiring real estate agents understand what it takes to become successful. What do you think is lacking today in our industry? And why do you think those numbers are staggering down and down versus to what it was when I started within the business 20 years ago? Why are more realtors doing less and less deals?
Well, you asked a lot in that. But
I did. It's a threefold question, for sure. Yeah, it's a big statement.
So, the first thing that comes to mind that you spoke of, and it's valid, why are there over 30,000 people not doing any deals? A couple of things concern me there. I believe because it's a hobby for people. I get my license and maybe I'll sell my house one day. I like to decorate.
Or two people shaking hands saying, hey, we're going to become a team.
Whatever. Yeah. Exactly. We're a team now.
Yeah.
We'll use your name and mine. So, exactly. And that's okay. Our industry is not protected with regards to you must be full-time, you must maintain X, professionalism, this and that. If it was, there's no way an industry governed by any governing body would let someone stay or continue to have a license that doesn't maintain a certain volume.
Correct.
Because without doing that,
Agreed.
You cannot represent clients in their best interest. Ministry, Consumer Corporate Affairs, government, get mad at me, do what you want.
Amen.
That's a fact.
Amen.
So, the thing is, our governing bodies are membership-based, not professionally driven to do what's best for the consumer. They claim they are, but come on, let's be honest. You ask me a question, I'm going to be honest.
Of course.
They're not. It's all numbers driven. Any brokerage, any government body that's got to do with real estate that allows half the membership to not even be active and hold a license, there's your answer. It's not professional. It's not best for the consumer. There's no doubt in my mind. Now, I've made this comment before. We shouldn't allow part-timers in our business. And then I get 15 or 20 texts, emails within the day. And it's okay. I'm used to that. It's fine because I don't have to return them. I can just be part-time and do it later. But having said that, I believe that an industry that represents most people's highest and biggest investment, most people, I believe you should have to be full-time. I believe you should have to be involved and actually doing transactions, deals, and I believe standards and everything that we do with regards to improvement should be focused on and money spent on those people to continually increase skill development. That's just my opinion. But why do I feel that way? Because I think that's what's best for the consumer.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So I answered part of your question. What was the other
part? No, the other part, I think you answered, I think all it was a threefold question where you answered all of them within the one statement too as well. But I think it's the main reason was, why do you feel though that a real estate agent right now is not doing the right things within their business to become successful?
That was the last part of your question.
That was the last part of the question. Because you did a good job answering the first.
Because you're right. I started in '89. You started, what year did you start in the business?
2004.
2004. Yeah. So back then, I mean that's 20 years ago, right? For me, 30 plus years ago. You're right. There were more people that were involved in our industry were full time and working. I don't remember very many part-time people in 1999. As a matter of fact, when I started in '89, interest rates shot to 16%, and the Durham Region Real Estate Board, which is now part of TREB, which was about 3,200 members, within 24 months went to 1,600. Realtors were leaving. There was quite a purge. Right, because the deals were done. People had to sell their homes privately, and I remember working private sales, but that's a whole other story. So I believe that we have evolved to allow our industry to have part-time people with no consequence or no, I think sometimes I say to people, one of the best things that could happen is to take our membership fees to $10,000 a person.
That'll be great.
Interesting,
for sure.
right?
Very interesting. But I agree with you. These are my.
I
talk about this with my team all the time.
But you know why you responded so quickly? I said that'd be great because you actually make money. Because you actually work.
I actually work
full time.
100%.
So, but if you were part time not doing any deals, you wouldn't like that, would you?
You wouldn't like that.
No, because you want to have your.
You know, with this new insurance that they raised it now, it's mandatory that you take this under $800. I think just that effectively alone is going to remove some real estate agents from the market.
Maybe they're hoping not, but maybe
they're hoping not. Of course, we're hoping it does.
So I think the trend has happened over a long period of time. And I do believe that it's not going to stop. It is part of what it is. It is what it is. But if you look at the numbers internally, the consumer is smart enough to move towards doing what's best for them. As a matter of fact, the mega teams that are offering more services at a much better return for the consumer,
at the same competitive rate.
That's right. But more deals are moving that way because your net's going to be higher as a consumer, right?
Of course.
Doing the right things, right? So, but I do believe the trend was not in existence before. Real estate was the kind of business you got into if you were serious and going to sell homes and you were full-time. As a matter of fact, back then, there were a lot of brokerages that did not even take you on if you were part-time. So that's probably a big part of it too, Nick. Now, I don't know any brokerage that won't take you even if you're part-time. I don't know.
But then we look at 72,000 members, right? Yeah. I think it's over 72,000, but 72,000 members. Yeah. Let's talk about that number. You have, we said 30,000 have made 0 deals. Mm-hmm. 32,000 make 1 to 4. So an average of 62,000 probably average up between 1 to 2 deals a year. Okay, that's the average number is there. Yeah. How it can't be that number where it's so high in the sense where not everybody's part-time within those numbers, right? Yeah. Out of 62,000, how many do you think are part-time? 30,000?
Hang on, if they're not making money, then what are they doing? Of course they're part-time.
Right, so yeah, but then how about the full-time agents that are still not making money?
Okay, the full-time agents, you mean who
are in the business,
claim to be full-time, think they're working but not actually work.
Yes, okay. Those are the ones I'm talking about. That's correct.
So what's the question?
How do we speak to them? How do we speak to them? How do we help them as entrepreneurs, as business leaders, with experience and mentors to many? How do we help those that are listening to this show right now to help them get off the ground running and doing the right things within the business? What would you advise? Pick 3 things that you think somebody could do right now to go get 3 listings tomorrow.
So I think,
or within this month. Sorry,
if
not
you
tomorrow.
want to go get 3 listings within the month, the best thing you can do for the next 30 days, if you don't mind working 7 days a week for even just 4 or 5 hours a day, is connect with people. And I don't care if you're prospecting past client lists from people in the office. I don't care if you're doing open houses to meet people. I don't care what it is, but you need to have a script and language that breaks the ice quickly with people, that warms them up to the fact that they know what you do full time and you're proud of it and excited. That's all you have to do, and they get permission to stay in touch with them. That's all you have to do. I believe in connecting with 10 people a day. That's a big, tall order, by the way. If you want to start with 2 a day, fine. But
I think you can average 5. 5 is pretty easy.
Fine, do 5.
And you can find ways to connect with 5.
Fine, do 5. But if you were to drop me right now out of a plane with a parachute in Vancouver, for example, where nobody knows my name, and I had a real estate license that was active for the province of British Columbia, my goal would be to get nice business cards and connect with, a team that has a value prop or an office that has a value prop for their sales volume, and I would yell from the highest mountain, and I don't care if it's a dry cleaner I met in the morning or I was pumping gas and I would not pay with my credit card. I'd go in and talk to the guy at the counter on purpose, and I would make sure that I'm spending at least 4 to 5 hours a day prospecting, connecting with at least 10. That'd be my goal. I'm just talking about me. 10 connections a day. And if I did that for 30 or 31 days, I would start to spit deals out. Now, I will tell you the norm is 60 to 90 days when you start prospecting, because most people wouldn't do it to the degree that I just spoke of. Mm-hmm. They might pull off 2 hours a day. But the bigger problem in that is the consistency. I see many start out of the gate. They last 3 to 5 days, 7 if you're good. Very few get to 30 days or make it a habit that's regular in their life. Prospecting doesn't necessarily have to be cold calling. Please don't get me wrong. There's a lot you can do with.
I don't even think you should be cold calling.
Well,
nobody wants to cold call anymore. You don't have to.
There's thousands of warm calls you can make with just list just sold. Thousands,
and
correct. It's legal.
Correct,
right?
And it's legal.
So,
correct.
But people will talk to you if you use the right language. Set reciprocity in your language early, so they know you're not a telemarketer. And if you're able to do that and use the right language, you'd be amazed how many people would all of a sudden be part of your database, whereby you're going to now incubate those leads to people that may buy homes, but you're going to incubate those leads to relationships to people who will always refer you to people they know that buy and sell homes, because everybody knows somebody that buys or sell a home every year. That means every lead that you warm up to that goes to your database, that means that's a potential deal.
Yeah.
Right?
Correct.
So
and getting buyer leads is pretty good. I always emphasize in growing, and the way I started out within the industry is that I always wanted to become a listing agent, because I thought listings always provided way more opportunity than dealing with a buyer.
Expensive, but they are now, especially.
Well, it all depends, right? You can go with the passive approach, where you can go online and start generating the Google leads and have an ISA.
No, I meant stagers and everything today is very expensive.
Well, it is. Right,
because we do it to the max, right?
But you got to provide value and be able to distribute value to that consumer. And once the consumer sees the value, they're willing to pay you 100%. The money that you deserve to get paid, for 100%. Sure. And I always focus my lead gen on the proactive side of things. Right now, it's more for me a little bit on the passive side. So I get a lot of passive lead gen that comes into my team constantly because of the brand and the name recognition that I've built within this community of Vaughan. Now, if agents that are listening to the show and they're just starting out, my advice would be, well, look at what is going to be the most inexpensive way to go and find business that's not going to cost you money out of pocket right away, where you can start being proactive in your lead gen. Are you doing the open houses every single weekend that I used to do, back in the day? Yeah. Now, when I'm doing that open house, am I proactively doing the open house correctly, the right way? Right. And that's what the coaching is really good for, where you can teach people that it's not just going there and doing an open house. How do you collectively do an open house that's going to be productive? Because when I did an open house, buyers were for me, in my opinion, and this is just my example, are a dime a dozen. I can find a buyer tomorrow. Sure. Doesn't take long.
Sure. And if you find a buyer, you're going to find listings.
Then you're going to find listings for sure. But my mentality was, how do I get, when I'm doing an open house, I want to attract more listings. I need to get more signs on front lawns. I need to find more sellers. How do I do that?
Sure. And you're right. With the coaching training company, that's what we do. We help teach and instill the finite details that make the differences. Because if you're sitting at an open house and you're just twiddling your thumbs, or, hey, the open house, go through, and I'm just here to open the door and lock the door after, That's kind of weird.
What did you achieve by
What's
that?
the point? Because
Correct.
we know, and we've tracked this, when you do an open house with the intent of selling the home, it's less than 1 in 100 times you'll actually sell the home that you're doing the open house in.
Correct.
So if that's true, we know that it is, then we should be focused on trying to pick up clients, which ultimately you and I know to do. And by the way, I did very well with that too in my early days. I did 2 on Saturdays, 2 on Sundays, and if the office that I worked for had a busy street, I would do one on a Thursday night too.
Yes.
They thought I was nuts.
Right.
But I went from no sales to rookie of the year for a reason. And it was because I met more people, because I connected with more people. And because when you connect with people, they want to do business with you. But you have to have the right language. I went through a lot of open houses when I would watch people come and go, and I'm like, well, why am I doing this? It's insane. And then I had to start to realize I need to interrupt their paths. That means actually step in front of where they're walking and talk to them, or tell them, you're not allowed in my open house unless you talk to me. Well, we can't do that. That's kind of weird, right? People would leave maybe. So there's ways to do it, though. There's ways to interrupt habits. And yes, we teach that in the coaching and training company. Like grab bags, people love free stuff. I remember sitting at a Raptors game, and one of my kids was very, very young, and there was even younger kids, 2 little guys sitting 3 or 4 rows in front of us, and right in front of us were these 2 big guys. And they would start to throw T-shirts, the Raptors game. And this big guy went right over the 2 little kids, spilt his beer on them to go for this $5 or $7 T-shirt or towel or whatever.
That wouldn't even fit him.
And I'm like, wow, it's great. People are crazy for free stuff. And it's true. People are crazy for free stuff.
Yeah.
So I think, okay, what about grab bags where there's a little stuff coming out of them, and $5 or $2 or whatever you want to put these together, put 20 of them together on your open house on the dining room table. And when an open house gets busy, which often happens, especially in busier markets, people will come and go. But people will stop and line up if you're talking to somebody giving them their free gift.
Yes.
And they can't just grab it and go. They have to get it from you. Wow, well, that interrupts pattern, doesn't it? Now, then what are you saying that's going to get the truth out? Because everybody says the right and the same thing. Do you have an agent? Oh, yeah, I have an agent. Oh, okay. Bye. No, that doesn't cut it. There are ways to ask people questions to actually get and extract
information.
Yes. And then there's ways to give a value prop where they say, well, I can't tell you how many times in a week my agents will use the exact same lines and scripts that break the ice and then get people to say things like, well, I'm not really committed to them because I haven't signed anything, but I'd love to hear what you just said more of. And so you have to say and do the right things at the right time, Nick. And I don't care if you do an open house. With you. I don't care if you're prospecting for 4 hours. If you're going to sit down to do things, and I think that's the problem with a lot of realtors as to why they don't sell homes. They don't have a plan. They don't have the right materials. They don't have the right messaging, and they don't have the right plan. Like I said, the plan laid out for the day to have an active day. You could have an active day. With most jobs where you start, you have somebody, you punch a card and somebody's watching you work your 40 or 50 hour work week. And you're getting paid overtime if it's past 40. So you know what you have to do. As a realtor, you're kind of thrown to the wolves when you're given a license. Good luck.
Yeah, it happened to me when I first started in the business too as well. They said I joined with Home Life at the time, and I went to the broker at the time, and I said, well, all right, they gave me a desk, they gave me a phone, I had my own computer. I opened it up. I said, okay, what do I do now? Like, back then, it was the Yellow Pages. We would call it the Yellow Pages. He threw them on the desk, and he goes, find some streets in your neighborhood that you want to start farming. Start calling, see if people want to sell their house. That's what they said to me. Right now, that's where the evolvement of teams came through, because we provide that type of coaching and mentorship that when somebody does join our team, we are going to teach you and get you 5 years in advance that if you had to get to that level where I'm going to get you within 1 year, you're going to be a lot further within the game than you would be trying to start on your own. Because today, evolving with the bigger mega teams and the amount of money that we have to put behind our branding and the expense behind that, it's hard to compete.
Yeah.
So, if you can't beat them, join them, as they say. And then at that point, if you want to get your own wings and you want to start flying, go right ahead. Sure. But on that perspective, one thing I can tell you, and one thing I really say quite often within my team members, is that there's one thing I cannot teach, and that's hustle. I cannot teach hustle. It's either that's embedded within you, Dan, or it's not. You can teach somebody all the scripts in the world. You can teach them all the language that they're going to need to know to go out there and to become successful and to say the right things when you need to say it. But if you're actually not going to go out there and do the work that you need to do to become successful, what are those scripts worth?
Well, I mean, I do agree with you to a degree. I mean, I think that there are a lot of people in that category that you speak of, you can't teach hustle, that just don't know where to put their efforts. I've met a lot of people, Nick, having been the coaching and training side of things for years now. I've met a lot of people who actually had that fire and it's burnt out slowly because they've tried and tried and tried different things and it just didn't work. So they're like, why do I keep doing this? So that's not to say they're not people who would work efficiently and push harder if they saw results. The issue is quite often, the old miner who sold his mine back in the day, right? You've heard this story, I'm sure. Mm-hmm. And he worked it for 35 years and sold it for a dime or whatever it was. And the next day, the guy, hit the gold mine, hit the vein. He just stopped one day before. So at what point do you stop banging your head against the wall because you're not getting results? And then flip the coin over. Yes, the three-legged dog is never going to win the race. I hear you. I hear what you're saying.
Yes.
But there's a balance there. I've met many people who don't necessarily profile perfectly for this industry, that have learned parts of the profile, and they've attributed a lot of their success to being able to at least stay disciplined. And I think that's a key thing in what you're talking about right now. It's easier for some people to remain disciplined and stay the course and get up and their feet hit the ground running and they're excited and they don't get beat up as quickly with 30 days or 40 days or 50 or 60 days with no sales. It's easier for some to keep going than others. That I have noticed. So to your point, absolutely. For some, it's more innate than others. But that's not to say many of those people in that 30,000 that don't do numbers, a lot of them want to do numbers. They just don't know what to do and say. And if they did and had and understood what it meant to get results, and by results, I don't mean doing deals. By results, I mean getting people to say, heck yeah, I'd love to deal with you. Heck yeah, stay in touch with me. That's a win, by the way. Those are the things that you should be looking for in your immediate sensory things that happen every day, not where do I get a deal today. If you walk around looking for a deal every day, you're never going to find a deal. You walk around looking for how to better your skills, better your language, and you'll know when it's working because you'll start to get people to say yes to you. Yes, you can come and see me. Yes, I'd like you to stay in touch with me. Absolutely, I like what you just said. I see value in that. You can send that to me. If that's what you're collecting every day, those are the small wins that will naturally produce deals for you. Because deals, again, are a natural byproduct of doing the right things. So, yeah, what do I say to people to motivate and inspire them? Some of them, like I said, not the three-legged dog's never going to win the race. Some of them, it's okay. Does that three-legged dog still be? Should they still be in the race? Absolutely. There's room for everybody to be here and grow and do the best you can. No question. Some people will excel more than others without question, but I do believe there's bigger numbers they can, and they just haven't been given a fair shake yet, Nick. That's my opinion.
I agree, and I think today the problem with the agents coming in within our industry, and I don't want to just pick on them. I'm just what this is trying to help people understand that what really worked back then, 20 years ago, 30 years ago for me and you, is still the thing that's going to work today.
Well said.
Social media has evolved to allow people to want to become Insta famous, social media famous, where you're going to become, this influencer online and think it's going to generate you an abundance of leads, or I'm going to invest into having billboards or bus stops and all that stuff. People need to understand, especially they're just starting within the industry. Nowadays, for guys to evolve where we are with our billboards and bus stops and being on social media and having podcasts and doing the things that we do every single day is going to generate us more of passive lead gen. It's more of a passive lead stream of flow of buyers and sellers that are going to be calling us because we have a reputable, likable, and trustable brand. Those are the two key ingredients, and that is likable and trustable. That's why people want to do business with you, because they like Dan. They trust Dan. Dan's gonna help them get through that, through their biggest investment that they'll ever make in their life, knowing that it's going to be protected and it's going to be in good hands.
And they'll net the most money, yeah, absolutely.
And that's how you built your brand over the years. But that's not how you started. And I believe today, the younger generation of the modern day real estate agent still feels like going out there and posting on social media is the easy way out. That ain't necessarily the truth. It's still doing what we did back in the day. That was going to see FSBOs. For sale by owners, I made a career on that. I used to land 10 in a month. Now, it's a little harder today, but still doing the right things through your coaching and scripting and knowing what to say to that for sale by owner is very critical and very 100%. Important. But if you're not going to get out in the car and go and see those people, I used to go and do No joke, 5 a week. I used to set myself up a listing appointment every single day. That's how hard I hustled. That's how hard I worked. And when I went in there, and even though I didn't get the listing on it, at least I went in there with the mindset knowing that I practiced my listing presentation to make sure that I got better than my competition, to make sure that when I was going to go back in there and do that presentation again, it was no more, no, we hired somebody else. It was, yes, you're the guy we want. And that's what it's about today. So I truly feel that most people come into our industry thinking it's going to be easy. They think that what they see on HGTV, selling Sunset, selling New York, and all that stuff is, is what it's cut out to be. It's not like that.
How's that any different? In 1989, when I got my license, I looked at the nicest cars, nicest jewelry, and I thought, this is going to be easy.
It's not different, exactly.
But I felt the same way.
Yeah.
And it smacked me in the face, too. Because it was, a couple of months in, and I realized, did I make a mistake? I sold my HVAC company. I had 3 kids. I hope I could start making money in this business, because I wasn't making money right away. And I remember that same feeling. It's almost arrogance. My dad used to say to me, it's a fine line between confidence and arrogance, Danny. You ride it well.
Yeah.
Because I was one of 6 kids. My dad's the youngest of 17, but we were a small family, one of 6 kids. And he'd say, you're the most arrogant, confident kid I've ever seen in my life. And, it's funny because confidence and arrogance are very closely related. I remember going into some of my first listing appointments also, taking the lockbox and the... Actually, back then we didn't even have lock boxes, so this was probably a little later on. I would take the lockbox and the sold sign, and I hadn't even developed a listing presentation of value for the consumer yet. Talk about arrogance. I never got the listing, but I remember taking it in thinking, this is going to go off well. And I remember the guy saying to me, why do you have the sold sign? Well, because I'm going to sell your house. Well, I haven't said you can list my house. It was almost too arrogant.
Yeah.
So, until you have value, something of value that you have for someone, I don't care if it's the first meeting when you're developing a relationship, when you're breaking a pattern and meeting somebody in an open house, or you're just talking to your dry cleaner or whatever, until you have something of value that's a catch opportunity to catch their attention, you should make sure that you have that before you even start talking to people, in my opinion. Otherwise, it's just like, hey, how you doing? Well, let me save you some time. Everybody's fine. And that's just, you're just using words. Use words of value. They're going to get you to the opportunity to connect with people, because people want you to be their realtor. You don't know that, and until you believe that, because I walk around believing everybody wants me to be their realtor.
Correct.
And that's not arrogant. That's confident now.
Yeah.
And it's confident because I know the language I'm going to use that's going to allow them to see value in what we have, that's going to make them want to say, absolutely, yeah, sure. There's no reason why people wouldn't want what we have, but to be able to say it is what we teach, coach, and train. So I think the fear for the new person coming in doesn't exist, because you're right. There's a little bit of a facade out there, a big one, in that, I can just go on social media, I can be famous, and I can make lots of money. So you make a point. Please don't get me wrong. It's a great point.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I think that contributes to why realtors don't get traction. And then they sit there and go, why isn't this working? Right?
Yes. Yes.
So you're right. It is. It's true.
Yeah. And the consistency on it, and the time spent that you got to be focusing in on social media today and getting video production and doing all that stuff. If you just spent that kind of time
talking to people,
you become more successful. Worry about that stuff later on in your career.
Well said.
But at the very beginning side of things, if you're listening to this show, get out there, put your hard hat on. Put your construction boots on. Get out there and treat it as a full-time job. Go beat the pavement as we did. And that success, that hard work will pay off in the end. You just got to be doing the right things within your business that are going to allow you to become successful.
I agree with you. And you don't want to make that just sound, it's a great statement, but the specifics within that, like, who are my target market? Who am I going to talk to today? How many people should I go after today? Where do I find those people? What are the tools I use and the language I use? We can help with that, Dan Plowman.
But they don't understand even the consistency then too as well. Even in farming, when you got to do direct mail outs, they think, I'm going to send out a mail, I'm going to get a lead, that somebody's going to call me, they want to sell their house. The consistency in that, the money that you got to put behind that.
Right, because I did it, it didn't work.
It didn't work.
Right?
So.
And then I'll try something else that didn't work. Well, nothing works, but everything works.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
So it's the consistency. Very, very big word. Great word.
Yeah, yeah. And how many agents don't even follow up? But that's for another episode.
Oh
Dan,
my gosh!
You
If
know,
we could go
oh
off
my
for an
God,
hour on
geez,
that one. The value and the goal. Just give me your databases if you're not going to follow up with them. I'll show you how to make millions of dollars. As a matter of fact, I'll make the millions. I'll pay you referrals on them.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, and that's what happens a lot, and that's the big problem within our industry too as well. So Dan, I want to end up. I think we're running in 45 minutes on the show right now.
It goes quick.
It goes quick, and it's going to go pretty fast. But I would love to have you on again. If somebody wanted to get out and start getting coached by you, or even join your team if they're part of the Durham region within that area, how can they reach out to you?
Well, if you're I have a little plug here.
Shoot away. Go ahead.
If you're looking quickly to boost your real estate business, get a free business checkup with Dan Plowman Coaching and learn better ways to sell more homes. Visit danplowmancoaching.com and we'll get your business checkup done for you for no cost. It doesn't cost you anything. There's no reason you wouldn't do it. And what's going to happen is it's going to put you one step closer to having those tools that you and I speak of, that's going to allow you to have an efficient day, an efficient week, an efficient month, and do more deals. Because that's what we want, really, don't we?
Yeah.
We want to be relevant.
Yes, you want to be
relevant. We want to
relevant.
help people.
And I can say firsthand through my experiences, Dan coached my team a few years back. We're going to be looking towards getting Dan back on the team as
Appreciate
for it. You've helped me grow my team in an enormous ways that you probably don't even understand, and I appreciate it and I thank you for it. And your success within the industry really shows true professionalism, and it's been a pleasure to know you. And glad to hey, we've done a deal together too as well. People don't know about.
Yes,
we've done some business together too as well on the transactional side of things.
Yeah.
Well, I had to deal with one of your agents because you don't transact no more, but we did a deal together. But it was a pleasure.
No,
man.
I know that. I appreciate you.
Thanks,
Nick.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks for coming on.
Appreciate
it.
Looking to buy or sell? Call a team you can trust. Don't believe me? Our Google reviews say it all. Put us on your lawn, your house will be gone. TheOPteam.com.